5 years pass. So this is 5 years later. The former delivery boy danced into the Who's new lakefront home. Let's give a cheer, the Ambers are here. Otis came to celebrate Doug's victory wearing the old zippered jacket and aviator's helmet. He had even let a stubble grow on his chin. The only thing missing was his delivery bike. They had come in the soup kitchen van. Thank you for the generous donation, Mr. Who. God bless you, Crow said. Otis and I distributed the inner souls among our people. It helped their suffering greatly. She looked worn, her skin pulled tight against the fragile bones, and she still wore black. Mr. Who, on the other hand, was stouter and less angry. In fact, he was almost happy. Business was booming. Milwaukee loved Who's little footies, and so did Chicago and New York and Los Angeles, but he still had not taken his wife to China. Theo Theodorakis, graduate of journalism school, cub reporter, held up the newspaper hot off the press. Olympic hero comes home. 4 columns were devoted to the history and achievement of the gold medal winner who had set a new record for the 1,500-meter run. Theo had not actually written the article on the local hero, but he had sharpened pencils for the reporter who did. Take a bow, Doug, Mr. Who said, beaming. Doug leaped on a table and thrust his index fingers high in the air. I'm number 1, he shouted. The Olympic gold medal hung from his neck. Confetti from the parade dotted his hair. The Westing heirs cheered. Hello, Jake. I'm so glad you could come. Sonny, as Madam Who was now called, said, shaking the hand of the chairman of the State Gambling Commission. Boom, Jake Wexler replied. Hello, Angela. Denton Deer had grown a thick mustache. He was a neurologist. He had never married. Hello, Denton. Angela's golden hair was tied in a knot on the nape of her neck. She wore no makeup. She was completing her 3rd year of medical school. It's been a long time. Remember me? Seidel Pulaski wore a red and white polka dot dress and leaned on a red and white polka dot crutch. She had sprained her knee dancing a tango at the office party. How could I ever forget you, Miss Pulaski? Denton said. I'd like you to meet my fiancé, Conrad Schultz, president of Schultz Sausages. How do you do? Judge Ford, I'd like you to meet my friend Shirley Staver. Chris Theodorakis was in his junior year at college. A medication recently discovered kept his limbs steady and his speech well controlled. He sat in a wheelchair as he always would. Hello, Shirley, the judge said. Chris has written so much about you. I'm sorry I'm such a poor correspondent, Chris. I found myself in a tangle of cases this past month. She was a judge on the United States Circuit Court of Appeals. Chris and I were both chosen to go on a bird-watching tour to Central America this summer, Shirley said. Yes, I know. For old time's sake, Grace Wexler catered the party herself and passed among the guests with a tray of appetizers. She owned a chain of 5 restaurants now. Who's on first? Who's on second? Who's on third? Who's on fourth? Who's on fifth? Who's that attractive young woman talking with Flora Baumbach? Theo asked. Why, that's my daughter Turtle. She's really grown up, hasn't she? 2nd year of college and she's only 18. Calls herself T.R. Wexler now. T.R. Wexler was radiant. Earlier that day, she had won her first chess game from the master. So T.R.'s grown up, Turtle's grown up, and who is the master at chess? Sam Westing. Chapter 30. The End. Turtle spent the night at the bedside of 85-year-old Julian R. Eastman. T.R. Wexler had a master's degree in business administration, an advanced degree in corporate law, and had served 2 years as legal counsel to the Westing Paper Products Corporation. She had made $1 million in the stock market, lost it all, then made $5 million more. This is it, Turtle. His voice was weak. You can die before my very eyes, Sandy, and I wouldn't believe it. Remember, she's already seen that, and it's been her secret this whole time. Show some respect. I can still change my will. No, you can't. I'm your lawyer. That's the thanks I get for that expensive education. How's the judge? Judge Ford has just been appointed to the United States Supreme Court. What do you know? Honest Josie Joe on the Supreme Court. She was a smart kid, too, but she never once beat me at chess. Tell me about the others, Turtle. How's poor saintly Crow? Crow and Otis are still slopping soup, Turtle fibbed. Crow and Otis Amber had died 2 years ago, within a week of each other. So she's not being completely honest. She kind of wants him to think everything's okay. And that funny woman with the painted crutches, what's her name? Sidel Pulaski Schultz. She and her husband moved to Hawaii. Angela keeps in touch. Angela, and how is your pretty sister, the bomber? Turtle never knew he knew. Angela is an orthopedic surgeon. Julian R. Eastman was an old man, but suddenly his mind, too, was old. For the first time since the Weston game, he was wearing the dentures with the chipped front tooth. He had turned back to his happiest times. Sandy was dying. He was really dying. Turtle held back her tears. Angela and Denton Deer are married. They have a daughter named Alice. Alice. Doesn't Flora Bombach call you Alice? She used to. She calls me TR, as everyone does. How is the dressmaker, Turtle? Tell me about them. Tell me about all of them. Flora Bombach had given up dressmaking when she moved in with Turtle years ago. Baba as well. Everyone as well. Mr. and Mrs. Theodorakis, remember, they had the coffee shop in Sunset Towers. They retired to Florida. Chris and his wife Shirley teach ornithology at the university. They're both professors. Chris discovered a new subspecies on his last trip to South America. It's named after him, the something Christos parrot. The something Christos parrot? I like that. And the track star? Has he won any more medals? 2 Olympic golds in a row. Doug is a sports announcer on television. And how is Jimmy Who's invention going? I gave him the idea, you know. It looks like a real winner, Sandy. Mr. Who, too, was dead. Sunny Who finally made her trip to China, but returned to carry on the business. And tell me about my niece, Gracie Winclopple. Does she still think she's a decorator? Mom went into the restaurant business, has a chain of 10. 9 are quite successful. I keep telling her to give up on who's on 10th to cut her losses, but she's stubborn as ever. I guess she hangs on to it because it's in Madison, to be near Dad. He's now the state crime commissioner. He's well qualified for the job. And your husband, how's his writing coming along? He had remembered. Theo's doing fine. The first novel sold about 6 copies, but it got great reviews. He's just about finished with his second book. And when are you two going to have children? Someday. Turtle and Theo had decided against having children because of the possibility of inheriting Chris's disease. If it's a boy, we'll name him Sandy, and if it's a girl, well, I guess we can name her Sandy too. The old man's voice was barely audible now. Did you say Angela had a little girl? Yes, Alice. She's 10 years old. Is she pretty like her mother? I'm afraid not. She looks a lot like you and me. Turtle? Yes, Sandy. Turtle? I'm right here, Sandy. She took his hand. Turtle, tell Crow to pray for me. His hand turned cold, not smooth, not waxy, just very, very cold. Turtle turned to the window. The sun was rising out of Lake Michigan. It was tomorrow. It was the 4th of July. Julian R. Eastman was dead, and with him died Wendy Winclopple, Samuel W. Westing, Barney Northrup, and Sandy McSuthers. And with him died a little bit of Turtle. No one, not even Theo, knew her secret. T.R. Wexler was understandably sad over the death of the chairman of the board of Westing Paper Products Corporation. She had been his legal advisor. She would inherit his stock and serve as a director of the company until the day she, too, would be elected chairman of the board. Veiled in black, she hurried from the funeral service. It was Saturday, and she had an important engagement. Angela brought her daughter Alice to the Wexler Theodorakis mansion to spend Saturday afternoons with her aunt. There she was, waiting for her in the library. Baba had tied red ribbons and the one long pigtail down her back. Hi there, Alice, T.R. Wexler said. Ready for a game of chess? And that is the end of our book.